Welcome back to a Shot of Wisky podcast. I am Jordan Taylor, still rocking with my guy, the one and only, the original stretch for Cusco, Jon Leuer, brought to you by a new amendment. And we are now available on all social media platforms at Beyond the Big Ten. Also subscribe to at Beyond Big Ten on YouTube as well. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you get your podcasts for enjoyment. Johnny, what's good? Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Happy Kwanzaa and happy Hanukkah to you. How was your holidays, man?
I like how inclusive you were there. That's good. Wide demographic. It was great. My New Year's was great. Christmas was great. Great to be with family. I spoke to you briefly on New Year's Eve, FaceTime, and looked like you were enjoying your New Year's Eve. I'll just leave it at that.
By New Year's Eve was bracking. As you know, it all is going to be decent, man.
This man had a cowboy hat on like he was Pharrell, or I don't know. Were you trying to fit in with me down in Nashville now, or what was that?
Hey, one thing about me, Wisconsin. I love Wisconsin. I love the Badgers, but the one thing is, y'all style-wise, y'all was holding me back for all them years, man. None of y'all dress for real. Although I will say, post-college, your suit game got a little crazy, but I guess that was probably the money, though. That's not. Sometimes it's not. It's what's in you, not what's on you. You know what I'm saying? So I'm still trying to teach some folks that.
You get enough of your teammates making fun of your swag from wearing, Eddie Bauer, Wisconsin gear, and then you gotta up your game a little bit.
That's a fact. When you
still
you
get a little more cultured, travel the world like we have now.
Yeah, when you still wearing the Wisconsin zip up your rookie year, that it's like, all right, yeah, we gotta switch it up a little bit, man. But New Year's was great, man. Christmas was great. Got to spend my Christmas in London. It was pretty good. New Year's Day was a little rough, as the Vikings might be the worst 12-win team in NFL history. They got smacked by the Packers, as all Wisconsin fans, I'm sure, were rejoicing as they're one game out of the playoffs. That was tough, but you live it. You win some, you lose some, man. But listen, man, let's jump into it. Wisconsin was in action over the holidays, so we're gonna jump into our X's and O's segment. We met up with Western Michigan and also Lehigh. The Grambling game got canceled. One thing that's been crazy to me is it seems like there's been a lot of cancellations. This is a side note, kind of random. It seems like there's been a lot of cancellations amongst the college and high school level. Does it seem that way to you, or is that just me?
More so than in the past? Yeah, I mean, I guess when you have a blizzard and a polar vortex come through that messes up everybody's travel, that you're going to have some games canceled.
Yeah, that's valid. But I feel like we had blizzards in the past and games did not get canceled so easily. You remember?
Yeah, I get. We're just getting softer. We're just getting softer these days.
You preaching to the choir, baby. You preaching to the choir, man. But listen, Wisconsin did win both of those games over the break. 2 impressive wins. One was the Lehigh game was pretty handled well, or a handled victory, or a massive victory, I should say, for lack of a better word. Western Michigan, a little bit of a struggle, ugly game. But give me 2 things. You know how we do it. We're going to start off with the negative, go to the positive. So give me 2 things you didn't like, and then we'll get to 2 things that you liked about the Lehigh and Western, more so the Western Michigan game.
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously the Western Michigan game, you would like to see a little wider margin. But I think that's more a testament to, I mean, you know how it is, right? In Christmas break, the Kohl Center gets a little dead, the energy's down, so you play an inferior opponent that's a mid-major or whoever, inferior on paper, and you can come out a little flat, lacking in energy. I thought we came out to an okay start. We just didn't sustain it, and that was a game that I felt like we should have won by a little bit more than the margin.
Yep, definitely. We talked a little bit about those holiday games and what's going on with as far as finals go, and people want to be at home with their families for the holiday. It's tough for an 18 to 22-year-old kid. However, there were a lot of bright spots from those games. Like you said, I didn't really like the sloppiness of the Western Michigan game. I didn't really like the pace slowed down significantly. I mean, it's not like we play at a rapid pace anyway, but I thought the pace really slowed down, especially in December. We got to the latter part of December. which I don't think is a good sign. I think that's going to be troublesome from an offensive standpoint in the Big Ten. And then
I agree.
yeah.
I agree. We want to see that. We want to see that uptick in pace because that's going to help everybody.
Exactly. Get guys into shots, get guys rhythm. We've talked about that at length, especially for guys like Chucky and Connor as well. I think Connor does a good job. Esiason does a good job at kind of creating his own pace or playing in his own rhythm and at his own pace, especially for a freshman. But guys like Chucky and Max Klesmit, specifically Steven Crowell, even I think that's going to be important to kind of keep a pace, a relatively high pace, just to keep guys in rhythm and getting good shots. Also, the defensive rebounding still seems to be an issue as far as it goes. You give up nine offensive rebounds to Western Michigan, a 4-9 team with obviously not a bigger team. So I think that's a little bit troublesome as well. So kind of some.
I do. I think that can be chalked. That can be chalked up to like I said, Christmas break game. Lack of focus, not as intense as the environment as you're used to playing in, and you just, you don't focus on blocking out, and that can come back to bite you. But I don't look at that as a trend going forward. I think that's more of a one-off.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope you're right. But if that is the case, we can move to the things that we do like, because there were a lot of bright spots. Our guy, Steven Crowell, broke out finally, had 25 points. Big Steve. Oh, yeah. That was your nickname, huh? Big Steve, the nickname that nobody wanted. Big Steve busted out, had 25 points. Assist numbers went down, but, I think we're cool with that from the 7-footer, kind of an off night with the assists. 25 points, 8 rebounds, 3 of 5 from 3, 9 of 13 from the field overall. I think that's a really promising sign going into Big Ten play, as well as also I appreciated that despite the sloppiness of the game, they were able to lock in and win both of those games, find a way to win, and somewhat convincingly for both games. But I think moving back into Big Ten play, how important do you think it's going to be to have Steven Crowell have a game like that? And I know it's just Western Michigan, and a lot of people will look at it like it's not a formidable opponent. But how good is that, or how great is that for his confidence to be able to have a game like that going into Big Ten play?
Oh, it's huge. And, I've been super bullish on him even before the season started. And I've been waiting for him to have a breakout performance like this. So to see that career night, I was happy to see that, because like you said, it's just going to build his confidence more and more. And he's got that ability. He's got that ability to be, even more efficient and better at scoring than we've seen so far. He's done such a good job facilitating. But to see him have a night like that, I think it's going to boost his confidence a lot. I think one thing to pay attention to moving forward into the Big Ten season, right, is Big Steve likes the left shoulder right hook. If he can get to that, it's a bucket and it's money. And, Western Michigan was allowing him to get to that time and time again. And as you move into Big Ten play and league play, the scouting's better, right? You remember how it was. Every tendency of every player that you're going against. So I think people are going to sit on that left shoulder. And I think the next evolution in his game is getting something over the right shoulder, right? Whether it's a spin, turnaround, or a left-hand hook. Once he gets that, then, you're going to see the sky's the limit for him.
And we had, when Coach Ryan was there, we had a series of 5 post moves. I forgot. What was the drop step? What was the drop step? The Moses?
It was Moses, McHale, Bernie, and Sigma.
And Sigma, we're missing one. Moses was the drop step. Bernie was the shoulder shake turnaround. That was kind of yours. McHale was the up and under, and Sigma was the face up. But I'm missing one. There was 5, right? Was there maybe the jump hook?
There was 4.
I could have swore there was 5.
I thought there was 4. Let's call Bo Ryan.
Yeah, right, that's what I'm saying. We got to send Bo a text, get him on air to clarify for us. But either way, no, you're 100% right. So to your point, I think adding in kind of just a simple drop step, just to kind of keep people honest, is going to be huge for his game and for his evolution. But also just for the team offensively. to have him going the way Connor's been going, Chucky has had games and mostly has been solid all year. And then Tyler obviously has been a stud all year long. So to add in him as that fourth scorer, and then Max Klesmit, who is, that I don't want to belittle this or make this up, but that typical Wisconsin guy who's just going to give you consistency all the time, every night, whether it's scoring, defense or whatever. So to have him going will be huge. I also would say that the confidence that you get from those games. I remember my junior year, just being kind of after Pop, Trayvon, and J-Bo had left, trying to step up and be kind of that second scoring option, to be able to play those games early, even against teams like Mankato, and see the ball go through the hoop early is huge going into the Big Ten. And, it's just, even like I said, even though it might not be the best opponents, to have the ball go in and just know that you can give that. Because the game is, it's a mental game, man. It's a largely mental game, so it's going to be huge.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like you believe that you're that good, but until you actually do it, then it affirms you can have nights like that, right? I remember when you went off against Penn State as a sophomore, when I was hurt with a broken wrist, and you dropped like 25 in the second half. And that was your moment, right? Where it was like, okay, now that springboarded you to have belief to say, I can do this and I can score at an elite level. And I think we might look back on this game with Steven Crowell and say that was the one that really springboarded him into another level of offensive efficiency and scoring.
No question. And I think it is little things. Like, I remember I was 0 for 14 in 2 games, Michigan in that Penn State game before that happened. And I remember we were down 8 and I caught a 3. There was like a minute left. And I kind of just said, F it, I'm gonna shoot it, just because I thought the game was over, low key. And it went in, and the ball just started going in. So yeah,
you brought us all the way back for a win.
To that point, I think it's cool to see. It's cool to see, Steven kind of get going, Big Steve kind of get going, and I think now it's that he knows he can do it. It's kind of just finding that consistency and making sure you continue to put the work in. And continue to move in that direction. So that
I'll say this too. I was going to say this too. The other thing I like, not just about so we can give somebody else a little credit, is the way Chucky is shooting the ball. Remember at the beginning of the year, we were sitting here saying, man, this is, he was struggling. Yeah. And he's just kind of, he had some big games, and then he's just kind of now just consistently kept making threes. He's shooting 49% from 3 on the year. Sure. And if he can keep that pace up, that's elite, and it opens up the floor so much for everybody. We're shooting 38% as a team now from 3, which is almost top 30 in the country. Again, if we're making threes, now Steve can operate down low. Chucky can get drive gaps. Our 3-point shooting is going to be a big determining factor on the type of season that we have
100%,
here in the Big Ten.
100%. And Chucky as well. Chucky's one of those guys where that, I'd say similar to a lot of us Wisconsin guards, where, when that 3 ball is going, it's kind of that Steph Curry effect. Now you're much more dynamic off the bounce, getting in the paint when you're making shots. Obviously, guys got to honor that shot. It's easier to get places off the dribble. So yeah, you're 100% right. And that's definitely a good sign as we move back into the Big Ten. Which brings us to our next segment, which is the Scouting Report. Moving back into it, we got longtime rival, man. You know how big this rivalry is to us, and I think when it comes to, I was talking to Sam Decker. Now, obviously, I play in London now alongside Sam, which has been fun. And I was talking to Sam, and he made a comment. He was like, I think Minnesota fans hate Wisconsin more than Wisconsin hates Minnesota. And he was referencing the Packers and the Vikings, but I think that also holds true for the Gophers and the Badgers as well. But for us being Minnesota guys, what does the border battle mean to you first and foremost?
I think it was, for us Minnesota guys, I think it was as big as the Marquette rivalry when we go back to them and play, because we knew, if we lost that one, every time we go home in the summer, our family members, our friends, people are going to be jabbing us, the Gophers beat you, blah, blah, blah. And when we go into that arena, we are public enemy number 1, right? Like, we get the traitor chants. So it was always one that I marked every year, and obviously Wisconsin still has a number of Minnesota guys from Minnesota that are playing there. So the one thing I always, if I could go back and have a better awareness of, I think I would get too revved up for that game and a little jittery and nervous sometimes just because I wanted to win so bad.
Yeah.
So if there's anything I could give piece of advice to our current Minnesota guys, it's just, it's a big game, but just treat it like any other night and just go hoop.
Yep, 100%. That is tonight. Obviously, this episode will air after that game has happened, but still exciting nonetheless. For me, I can't. I agree with you 100%. I think there's very few moments I think in my basketball life, even though Minnesota obviously isn't. We can't call them a powerhouse in basketball, but going back to the barn is definitely a special moment for all the Minnesota guys. So for Steven, Tyler, his senior year. It's going to be a great experience for them. I know they're going to want to win really bad. Obviously, it's at Wisconsin tonight, but Minnesota is struggling. So covering them there, I got to give a shout out to my young guys over there too. They are led in scoring by Dawson Garcia, is a Minnesota guy, Burnsville kid, 17 points per game. And then Jamison Battle as well, who's a former Benilde St. Margaret's guy. I actually grew up watching, which is my high school. I grew up watching Jamison. Trying to coach him a little bit when I got the chance. Obviously, had nothing to do with his development, although which has been great. He's made great strides as a player from the time he was 15, 16. I'm very proud of him over there. But as far defensively, they do show aggressiveness from bigs at times. So that's why we brought up Steven Crowell a little bit, because it'll be a great chance for Steven Crowell to kind of continue his scoring streak, as Dawson Garcia and Trayton Tompkins, they like to show out on the screens a little bit. So it should, that throwback action that we like to run at the top of the key with Chucky and Steven should be wide open. He'll get plenty of opportunities to knock down shots. The other thing that they do that Minnesota does well is they rebound the basketball well. And that's what we just talked about. We have to be able to defensive rebound, keep them to one shot, and keep guys in front of us and kind of make them shoot over the top. And I kind of see this as a game that we should be able to run away with, as they're giving up 89 points a game as well defensively. So I think it's a game that in the Big Ten, and I think it's a game that we should be able to handle easily.
I do too, especially when you look at Minnesota's schedule and they're 6-6, right? And they've played 6 high major teams and lost every one against a high major. They have not beat a high major team yet.
Yeah.
They have eked out some 1-point wins against a couple mid-major teams. So if you're just, kind of objectively looking at their schedule, this should be a 15, 20-point win. But because it is the border battle, as we know, anything can happen. And like you said, you got 2 really talented guys over there in Jamison Battle and Dawson Garcia. And if they get going, now you got to deal with them. So it's going to be for Coach Gard and the coaching staff, how do we game plan to take those 2 out of their rhythm? Because if you shut those 2 down, they're not going to be able to score enough to keep up with you. And I think one thing in game I'm going to be looking for is the Steven Crowell, Dawson Garcia matchup. How does Steve close out to him and keep him from going off the dribble? Because I've watched Dawson play for a long time, coached him at the top 100 camp when I did that with the Player Association. And he's really good putting the ball on the floor for a 6'10", 6'11" guy. He's got a quick step. But the good thing is we've seen with Steve all year is he can move his feet against guards.
Yep.
I want to see how he does moving his feet against a really good center that can put the ball on the floor.
Yeah, that was literally on the tip of my tongue. I was thinking the exact same thing. That'll be an exciting matchup. But also I want to see how, if he's able to kind of, to your point, again, Steven likes to go over his left shoulder. Can he not only just settle for jumpers, but how can he wear him down on the offensive end? Because I think that's important to kind of put pressure on. Mm-hmm. As you know, when you have a good scorer, it's just as important to attack them on the defensive end, kind of wear them down, wear their legs down, so that it's not as easy for them to get going offensively. And Dawson does like to settle for jumpers at times. I think probably a little bit more than he should. So that's, and again, when you do that, when you wear them down, your legs are tired, the ball is not going through the hoop, it just makes your job that much easier. And, I think our front court is much more, more talent. I don't want to say talented, but just much more savvy than theirs at this point in time. When obviously Tyler's going to get some looks at Dawson as well. So I think that's a matchup that favors Wisconsin. Also, I think one of the areas of weakness for us all year has been kind of slowing guards down, especially athletic guards that can get in the paint, get in that mid range, and make plays, as we saw with guards like the Marquette game, the Wake Forest game. And Talon Cooper is a solid player. He's averaging about 9 points a game, but I just don't think that he is as dynamic as some of the other guards that we've seen. I think Chucky, we win that matchup as well. I think Chucky, Connor, Max, I think they kind of make his night or his life a little bit miserable or a little bit tough. So I think it's a tough matchup for Minnesota tonight. That being said, like it is a Big Ten game. It is the border battle, like you said. So we'll kind of see what happens. But my prediction, that one, I like the Badgers by about 10-13, just like you said. Later in the week, we have a big matchup with Illinois at Illinois, who, to my surprise, has been struggling. I watched them a lot in the preseason. And I actually think it's a complete opposite story as far as front court goes. You got Dane Danger, another Minnesota guy, Park Center kid, who's averaging 10 points a game, Baylor transfer. And then you have Coleman Hawkins, who's averaging 9 points a game, but he's similar to Dawson Garcia in the sense that he handles the ball, but he's a little more jump shot oriented, and he's only shooting about 28% from three. I'm very interested to see that matchup with our front court. That game is in Champaign. That'll be a tough game. They lost both their Big Ten games. They're 0-2 in the Big Ten. They've only been averaging 62 points a game in the Big Ten, which I think is uncharacteristic. And they're a team that they bring the intensity defensively, but it seems that when their offense kind of dries up, that intensity on defense kind of goes down. And then you have Terrence Shannon as well, who's averaging 17 points per game, who does offer that guard versatility that the Badgers have struggled with. So I think that is going to be the toughest Big Ten challenge that we face, despite their struggles so far.
And I think Matthew Mayer, the transfer from Baylor, I think they were expecting maybe a little bit more out of him this year. But as Wisconsin fans know from our game against them in the NCAA tournament, when he cooked us, his eyes might light up seeing our red jerseys again. So I know he's going to be all over our radar, even though maybe he's not putting up the numbers that Illinois thought he would. He's a very capable player of getting hot and shooting from three and just making plays. So we have to contain the mullet that game.
I like the different hats you're wearing today. You're bullish on stuff. You got all these nicknames. You're going from financial analyst to I don't even know what else, man. But the creativity's on 10 today, man. I can appreciate that. I know you had something to say about my hairline before the show too. So if you want to get that out, go ahead. Now's the time. You got something to say?
It's looking awfully shiny, man. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know if there's some artificial stuff going on here, but I know we're over 30 now. And it's not like it was back when we were at Wisconsin. It's moving back a little bit. But how is it all of a sudden kind of moving forward a little bit?
My barber out here, I did not come up on any type of LeBron James type money. I promise you that. But my barber does have me out here like it's 2005. And don't be mad because I'm still beautiful. You know what I'm saying? That's jealousy is an ugly emotion, John. That is an ugly emotion, man. But don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? I got my techniques. We looking wavy over here. Don't even trip. Just
don't Carlos Boozer it where it's dripping down your face in the middle of a game in London, because that would go viral, and then this podcast might be shut down.
That just means the podcast gonna go up. That's exactly what we need. We need some virality. I don't think that's a word. But
there you go.
That's exactly what we need, man. But yeah, I think that got a little off topic, but I think that Illinois game is one of those games as well where it's like, if they're, let's say they win, they're 1-2 or 0-3, whatever it is, and we're 3-0 going into Champaign, that's one of those games that they're going to look to kind of get on track. Beating Wisconsin at home would be a big win for them regardless. And it's one of those games where we can really, I think, kind of set ourselves apart from the Big Ten. Even if it's not record-wise, I think that's just a statement game for Wisconsin at this point in the season. If you can get off to a 4-0 start in the Big Ten, you know what that means. I mean, you got a 20 game slate, and if you beat Illinois, that's going to be a tough place to play regardless. At some point in the season, that's going to be a tough place to play. Michigan State, Ohio State.
Absolutely. It always is.
It always is.
It always
Purdue's
is.
going to go there. It's going to be that's a coveted win. So I'm circling that game. I'm excited about it. I'm excited for the opportunity. Obviously, like we said, if we can kind of slow down what it looks like Terrence Shannon right now and keep Coleman Hawkins struggling, we should be in a great place to win that game, man. So
to piggyback off what you were saying, I mean, when you get off to a hot start like that, 4-0, 5-0 in the Big Ten, it does so much for your confidence. When you get off to a 2-2 or 2-3, whatever, now you feel like you're trying to fight back and climb the whole time to just get back into the fight for a Big Ten championship. Yep. But if you can get out to a hot start, man, it's huge. And you see, I mean, Purdue lost, right, to Rutgers. There's going to be a lot of losses out there. So if you can actually have some margin for error, coming down the stretch when you get off to a hot start, that's going to be huge.
100%. 100%. Let's move into the word on campus, man. It's our last segment of the day. And we're just going to kind of continue to talk about what we were just talking about, which is the Big Ten standings. Are there any surprises for you? You mentioned Purdue losing to Rutgers. Wisconsin's at 2-0. Ohio State's at 2-0. Are there any surprises for you? 2 games in, I guess, still really early, but what are stands out to you?
I don't look too much at the standings right now on who's 2-0, who's 1-1, because that it's just too early. But yeah, the game we just talked about. I mean, for Purdue, undefeated #1 team in the country, to lose to Rutgers, I think that turned a lot of heads, and it just speaks to the depth of the league every year, right? I feel like we say the same thing every year. It's anybody can win on any given night. There aren't any gimmies anymore. I think when we were playing, I'm not going to name names, but there were a couple teams where we knew we were going to come out with a win before the ball was tipped. And it's not like that anymore. And you better, lace them up and be ready to go when that ball's tipped, because anybody can knock you off.
100%. That's 2 years in a row that Rutgers has knocked off Purdue. 2 years in a row that Rutgers has knocked off Purdue, and which is crazy. And honestly, shout out to Rutgers as a program, man, because they're making great strides over there, which is great. It's great for the Big Ten, man. You need excitement like that in college basketball. I think especially with the state of college basketball right now, you need exciting storylines like that. So it's great. It's great for the Big Ten. It's great for college basketball. As far as you said, you don't look too much into the standings. One of the things I did want to talk about was the importance of rankings. So Wisconsin is ranked 14th right now. I actually, from an outside obviously when you're a player, you got all the cliches like, don't look too much in the rankings, just the ranking. But again, I would say the ranking in a way is almost like a vote of confidence for the team. When you look at it like we're 14th, I mean, obviously it can go the other way and you might overrate yourself or whatever, look past opponents. But I think just seeing little things like that does so much for 18 to 22-year-olds, because honestly, you shouldn't put stock in it. But let's be real. We all do. So them being
for sure.
Yeah. So just I guess my question would be, what exactly do rankings mean to a student athlete at the time?
Yeah, I think they do. They impact you. Like you said, every coach tries to tell you not to pay any attention to it. But I think in Wisconsin's case this year, right, when you go from being unranked preseason to being picked, 9th or 10th in the Big Ten, and you're unranked, and now you've just consistently climbed, it kind of affirms that work that you're putting in as a team is paying off. Yep. Right? It's just a number on next to your name, but as that number moves higher and higher, especially from where you started, it's kind of a quantifiable way to measure the progress that you've made from the beginning of the season.
Yep, 100%. And also, I'll say from a coach's standpoint and recruiting standpoint, it's big. You get to, and then you see guys like for Wisconsin, you have guys like Connor Season who are getting national attention as a freshman. Obviously Johnny Davis last year, and every year when you're ranked in the top 10, I think it really does mean a lot. Especially with this day and age, with the way that recruiting is changing between transfer portal, NIL, stuff like that. I think honestly, we have to start talking about what ranking means from a money standpoint, not only for the program, but for individual student athletes. So, I think that I think there's big buzz. You kind of see the Instagram page, the team Instagram page publicizes that. I know I talked to Sharif a little bit earlier today. He's excited to play Minnesota. He's excited to go into Illinois. Not necessarily, he's not bragging about being 14, but it just creates buzz around the program. It creates excitement, and I know all those guys are excited to have that. So that is that's a big thing, and like I said, I'm excited moving forward, man. Absolutely, but. Johnny, that is all we got for today. This is a Shot of Wisky podcast. We are looking forward to you guys joining us again. We'll be available every week. You can catch us right here on a YouTube page at Beyond Big Ten. Also, everywhere you get your podcast, Spotify or Apple. Also, check us out on Twitter, IG, and TikTok at Beyond the Big Ten. Stick with us all year long as the Badgers continue to climb these rankings, and we look forward to see what we can do and make a run again here throughout the season and into March. See y'all next time. I am Jordan Taylor. That's Jon Leuer. Happy holidays, happy new year, and everybody enjoy. We'll catch you next time.
Beyond the Big Ten is a network of podcasts that aims to be your go-to resource for all things Big Ten. We cover the entire conference with shows hosted by ex-players and athletic alumni, aiming to be your go-to source of information and entertainment for your favorite team. Hosted by ex-Big Ten players, media, and insiders, our podcasts are focused on giving diehard fans and those alums an inside scoop about the teams and people that make the Big Ten Conference one of the most watched and most talked about conferences in sports. We're excited to talk Big Ten basketball with you wherever you may be. Subscribe now.